and trust that we are all defined by what we eat, or what we ate, or what we did not eat. I take this opportunity to welcome you to this presser, where we are marking this critical day of humanity, because food defines us. Once again, my name is Agnes Kirabo. We are here as food safety advocates in Uganda. And on this call, I have colleagues together with whom we are going to be speaking to you, and I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves. Let me start back to you, Henry, from the Global Consumer Center. Please introduce yourself. Henry, have we lost you? We do not want to experience dead air in our broadcast.
You haven't lost me. I am here. Thank you very much, Agnes, for kickstarting the presser. Chimera Henry, I team leader at Consent. I'm honored to being here.
Okay.
And I'm greatly honored to be with you on this presser, and we look forward to the sharing, observing the World Food Safety Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Henry. May I close over again? Is Bernard Bambale on call? Bernard Bambale, if you're on call, please unmute and introduce yourself. Okay, if we do not have Bernard, I'm very sure Jonathan Lubega, Councillor Jonathan Lubega from Siatini. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Agnes. I hope I can be heard clearly. My name is Jonathan Lubega. I work for Siatini, and it's a pleasure to be here for this World Food Safety Day virtual presser.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan. Let me consult the commanding center. Who else is on call that needs to be among us, the partners, who needs to introduce ourselves? If there is none, members of the press, I want to put off my video for better connections, and I believe we have succeeded on that. This is the panel of the food safety advocates that have been able to make it this morning to address you, and I take this opportunity to thank you so much for your dedication and commitment to the cause of relaying information to the people of Uganda and across the world regarding what they eat, what they should eat, what they shouldn't eat, and how they should eat it. I also, on behalf of our colleagues, wish to thank you so much for accepting to support our cause and to accompany us in this journey and this struggle. And we truly, truly appreciate you and thank you so much. If it wasn't you, our capacities are so narrow and they are so limited, we wouldn't be able to reach out to the millions of people. Thank you for upholding your position and also trusting that the power you have, that you're using diligently, I am assuring you, it is causing a lot of impact. We have a detailed statement that I'm not going to share here and start reading verbatim, but I'm going to give a snippet of it, and then I'll be inviting our other colleagues to throw a bit more light on specific aspects that you need to know, with emphasis from the consumer's perspective, from the standards perspectives, from the legal and the policy perspectives, from the trade and economics, from the science, and from the various aspects of this particular subject we are discussing today. I'm only going to do a summary presentation of it, and we, at the end of the day, going to share with you a detailed paper that we have developed as civil society organizations on this day, as well as a press release in accordance to your standards as the media. So members of the Fourth Estate, as we open this conversation today with you on the 7th day of June 2026. 7th June every year, the world together commemorates World Food Safety Day. And for us as people of Uganda, as civil society in Uganda, we wish to open our mics before you to say that food in Uganda is making millions sick. And as civil society, we demand urgent action on the national food safety crisis. Members of the state, as Uganda marks World Food Safety Day, we as food safety advocates warn, and we wish to warn, that 1.3 million people in Uganda suffer foodborne illnesses annually, while mycotoxins like aflatoxins, pesticide poisoning, and antibiotic residues continue to threaten food consumers in this country and those beyond that consume food that comes from our food system here in Uganda. And we are here to call for urgent action on this national crisis to protect consumers of our food in Uganda and beyond from contamination. And this is becoming a major public health, human rights, and economic crisis in a food-endowed country, Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, as the world celebrates World Food Safety Day, like I have said, we are talking about 1.3 million people that suffer from foodborne illnesses every year, accounting to 14% of the disease burden treated nationally. Contaminated fresh produce, for instance, is reported to contribute to more than 60% of food illnesses that are treated in this country. Only fresh foods. Talk about vegetables, kachumbari, fruits, and things like that contribute 60% of the total foodborne illnesses that are treated. And please note that these ones are recorded in informal health centers, but the majority of our population actually suffer and do not walk into these health facilities, while about 30% of diseases in Uganda are linked to contaminated disease. So as we celebrate today, 3 out of 10 people who are lined up in a health facility, their complaining or their issue is linked to contaminated food. And I'm sure that almost everyone on this call annually, you have found yourself in a situation or you have been diagnosed and told that you're suffering a food poison, something that we have normalized. The burden is particularly severe among children, pregnant, breastfeeding mothers, older persons, and persons that have weakened immune systems, like those that are suffering from HIV, AIDS, or those that are having chronic illnesses like cancer, and others whose immune system has become weak. Unsafe food, members of the estate, contribute to illnesses, malnutrition, lost household incomes because of the treatment, and also the failure to work, but also rising healthcare costs at household, but also at macro level as a country, and of course labor productivity. For us as civil society, we are saying that this is not just a health issue, but also it is an issue of a violation of a human right to adequate food, because meaningful enjoyment of this human right to adequate food does not only mean food being available to families to eat it or to enjoy it, but it is a violation if you eat food and it makes you sick. And we believe that every person has a right to food that is nutritious, that is affordable, that is healthy, but above all, that is safe. And therefore, government and business people and all actors must make sure that we treat food with a lot of dignity, with a lot of respect, to protect it and ensure that at the end of the day, when the consumers eat it with dignity, just across from the farm where it was produced up to the time the food enters the mouth. Where is the hidden crisis on Uganda's plate and on this day when we are commemorating? We are saying the people who eat food in Uganda are exposed to multiple food safety hazards throughout the food value chain, including microtoxin contaminations in staples like food, like maize, cassava, ground nuts, fish, smoked fish, mukene, and other foods consumers are exposed on a daily basis. Consumers are exposed to pesticide residues out of the misuse of chemicals, but also the use of hazardous chemicals. I'm sure many of you have gone through a market this morning, or you're going to go through a market after this presser, only to realize that tomatoes that are supposed to be red in color, they are white. It's like they are bleaching. They are white, and those are pesticide residues. We all know how people spray beans and maize to induce drying, especially after a scarcity, after a longer spell. The first planters use hazardous chemicals to induce drying. We know how we use chemicals in our storage facilities. There are certain grains you buy in a grocery store, and you don't know whether this is rice or it is a chemical. We have all been able to experience this, but we are here to say that on a daily basis, if you're not exposed to microtoxins, you're exposed to these pesticides. And if you're not exposed to those two, you're exposed to veterinary drug residues. We all know how our chickens are injected with the antibiotics. They are injected with growth hormones such that their thighs and breasts grow big very fast. We all know how our dairy animals are injected with milk hormones. We know these things, and they are happening. So these are the kind of exposures that we are saying on a daily basis we are being exposed. What about the poor hygiene? The kind of water, the quality of water that is being used to pretend that we are cleaning vegetables. When you see the vegetables, they appear clean, but the kind of water that has been used is highly polluted, is highly, water can appear clean when it is actually not safe, when it is not safe. So the kind of hygiene, including the water in some places, especially in the urban areas, that we use to wash our hands, that we use to wash our plates, that we use to cook our food, without talking about the water that is used to make the juices, the katunda that is being sold in the marketplace in reused bottles, and sometimes the water that is being sold in retail groceries for the poor to drink in Kavera. There is that water in Kavera that is being sold. So the levels of exposure are far and wide. When we go back to the issue of aflatoxin contamination that we talked about, that is common in grains, maize, groundnuts, but what is making it even very difficult is the stretch from the grains to animal feed. You may be saying you're not eating the groundnuts, or you sort the groundnuts yourselves, but I'm assuring you, as we speak now, because people still believe that animals eat waste, what has been condemned for human consumption should be given to animals. So a lot of contaminated maize, banned maize because of aflatoxin, ends up into animal feed. And again, you as a food consumer, you consume these aflatoxins either in milk, in eggs, in chicken parts, in meats, in piggery. So that's another level of contamination. And we are here to tell you, colleagues, that this one, according to the statistics that are available, annually, we are registering 3,700 new cases of liver-induced, aflatoxin liver-induced cancers in this country alone. 3,700 new cases every year. And the country loses around $577 million just on this particular aflatoxin liver-induced cancer. Pesticides exposure, I have already shared with you, but I'm only to tell you that the figures that are available indicate that annually we are getting 30,000, around 30,000 new cases of organophosphate cases diagnosed every year. So if you have skipped, if you have survived the aflatoxin liver-induced cancer, you're going to get into the pesticide poisoning-induced illnesses. So nobody might be safe in that manner. Members of the state, there is also emerging evidence that actually 90% of the exotic chicken consumed in this country may be contaminated with antibiotics. We all know what is happening in these chicken farms, whether the big ones or among the smallholder farmers. You all know, if you haven't experienced, I'm telling you, you're about to know. So that piece of chicken you enjoyed on the sigiri, all in a restaurant, chips and chicken, 90%, the chances are high that the one that you took was rich in antibiotics and is going to cause antibiotic resistance among the humans. No wonder it is very, very difficult to treat an infection now, because many of us have become resistant to several lines of antibiotics. It's not because we have been overtreated with antibiotics, it's because we are consuming antibiotics every day. And we are therefore saying, as civil society, that everyone is a potential victim of unsafe food. And the consumers, unfortunately, cannot see, cannot smell, cannot taste these chemicals and tell. So by the time you know, you have consumed and you have already gotten sick. And therefore, we really need regulations. The last issue that I need to summarize in our bigger statement is about the laws and the scattered, fragmented regulations that I know Councillor Jonathan will come back here and emphasize on how the issues of food safety are scattered everywhere. You know, something that belongs everywhere belongs to nobody. It is very difficult to enforce. It is very difficult to manage. We recognize that the stronger measures on food safety are embedded within the numerous standards that have been issued by the National Bureau of Standards. So we are standard rich as a country, but we are practice malnourished. We are enforcement malnourished. The standards are there. There are so many, almost in everything. There is standards, especially regarding food. But our enforcement, our compliance, our culture is something that we shouldn't be very proud of. In other words, we are standards obese, we are practice culture, compliance, and enforcement malnourished. Of course, we recognize that the mother law, away from the Constitution, is the Food and Drug Act that gives the provisions for food safety. But this is a law, according to me, that is 6 decades old. By the time it was enacted, nobody knew that people are going to give ARVs to pigs. Nobody knew that food is going to be a tradable commodity. Then 60 years ago, we had the commercial and food crops were largely for household consumption. Food trade was not at this scale. Food as a business was not at this scale that, you know, when business is not regulated, people's manners and ethics is another thing. So this is a law of long ago that we really feel we need to pace it up to meet the demands and the challenges of the day. Of course, we recognize that government of Uganda, besides churning out several standards, cabinet made a decision, a rare decision at the time of rationalizing institutions, made a decision to come up with a food regulatory authority under the Ministry of Agriculture. Since 2024, when the cabinet made this decision, you see we are dragging our feet. We are dragging our feet, and yet we experienced just of recent a law that was enacted, brought in Parliament, read for the first time, went to the committee, came back, and in less than a month, a law was drafted and enacted, and even the president assented to it. But for us, we are talking about a law to establish an institution that has been dragging on from 2024. Why? Because the issues of food have not occupied the political space that it desires. Therefore, what are we saying as civil society? We are saying, like I have ended, that let us fast track the establishment of this institution yesterday. because you have already seen that the issues of food safety are issues of health. Anyway, we can die. Maybe somebody doesn't care. There are issues of economics at the time when we need money as a country. Maybe we can find money somewhere. But I'm here to tell you that food safety issues are security issues. They are security issues. They are national security, peace and tranquility issues. For me, that is what matters most. If you eat it and die, if you're part of those statistics, maybe we shall get others. But the issues of peace, security, and tranquility of this country, food safety is at the heart of that. And therefore, we are requesting that government, the new government, should fast track the establishment of this institution. We are also asking for an urgent review of our old law, but also organizing the legal system on food safety, given the importance, like I have elaborated. We are also asking the total removal of the banned hazardous chemicals that of recent Ministry of Agriculture highlighted. We should fast track actions on that, but also regulating those that need to be regulated. Expanding food testing should also be a priority. Personally, I'm wondering why pregnancy test kits are everywhere, but food safety testing kits are not everywhere. These are kits that must be essential, affordable, that we should walk in a food grocery, a food restaurant, and you check, because you can only be pregnant once in a year. But if you're going to be exposed to the aflatoxins, to the microtoxins, to the antibiotics, to the hormones, you know, you can be contaminated the entire day all throughout your life. So if I can only be pregnant once a year, why are pregnancy tests available and affordable and accessible, and food safety testing kits are not that affordable, accessible, and available to food consumers? We are demanding that can this be expanded and be made in reach for consumers. The issue of commercializing solutions that our researchers have already been able to innovate, like AfraSave. AfraSave can take us miles to deal with these issues of aflatoxins. But we are there going in circles. We are here demanding that a fully fledged factory for AfraSave in Uganda only requires $3 million to be given to NARO. That is pocket change. But we are losing $38 million annually to our food that is being rejected and condemned. And we are making big business in food. So we are saying this should be also fast-tracked. We are talking about strengthening the monitoring and surveillance of pesticide trade, but also pesticide use. I know if Bwambale comes back here, we'll elaborate more on that. And also the issue of protecting our water systems, our rivers, our lakes from contaminations. Excuse me. Because, like I said, your tomato may be safe, but it gets contaminated by the water, you wash it. Your food might be safe, sincerely, but you contaminate it by the water you wash your hands with to take food at a marketplace somewhere or at a particular place somewhere. So we also need to protect and make sure that our water systems are made clean. And we are also asking for an investment in farmer and food consumer education, and awareness. We, the people of Uganda, we are fond of being negligent and careless when it comes to where we buy, what we eat. So long as it looks very nice, we just pick and eat. Why, for instance, are we so proud buying food that is being sold on the ground? Why? The watermelons, the pineapples, the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the nakatis. You go very early in the markets around Kampala, and we are busy there shopping with our glasses on, with our gold watches on, with our lipsticks on, having parked our cars by the other side. We proudly walk, go and buy from the mud. Our quality culture as the people of Uganda is not something that we can speak proudly with. And therefore, we need to invest in farmer, consumer awareness and conscious raising. We may start asking questions about food that we are eating. Ladies and gentlemen, as civil society, we are saying safe food is a human right and not a luxury. Take it from us. And we are also saying that Uganda has a wealth of knowledge, has a wealth of technologies, has a wealth of solutions, has a wealth of committed people. What is missing is a political commitment at individual, institutional, structural, and systemic level. Can we all, on this day of World Food Safety Day, shift the burden that I have ever elaborated on into solutions, and we commit to take actions at the various level to ensure that every single food or means of its production that crosses or touches our hands is protected and treated with dignity, because food safety is everybody's business. And ladies and gentlemen, if it is not safe, it is not food. Shifting from burden to solutions, and we have food safety everywhere is possible. For God and my country, I thank you. May I invite you, Jonathan? Oh, thank you so much for the flowers. I received them. Jonathan Ilubega, can you take the floor and you elaborate on the issues of the law and the issues of economics to the Fourth Estate? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Madam Agnes, and you've been really elaborate. And maybe what has really pinched my mind is on the concern of that we are standards of base. Indeed, it was really something, a trick of a language, which really requires us to really think. Okay, we are standards of base, but then what is the question? What is the problem? Which is now the implementation. And thank you so much for that very elaborate kind of engagement, Madam Agnes. Going to the economic and trade perspectives, as Siatini, we have recently, actually, when last week on Friday, 5th of this month, we organized together with the same team here, we organized a groundbreaking webinar to elaborate on issues of food safety and what really food safety means and the concerns as they mean. But then when we come to concerns of the trade, we know that Uganda or even other countries, we have faced challenges, and I want to bring to the notice of every person here that we have faced challenges of denial of our maize. For example, going to South Sudan. I know there is a colleague on the call who is from South Sudan, that we know that, yes, we are saying Uganda is the food basket of the region, and here comes the food basket exporting food that is high in, I mean, that is contaminated by aflatoxins. And countries like even South Sudan saying, no, we really cannot get this maize. That was done in 2023. And it was a big question, and to all policymakers and the leaders, as it may be, on issues of implementation and also strategically facilitating safe food. And we also see issues of Kenya saying, no, we cannot allow you to bring in maize. We cannot allow you to bring in milk and other products that really do not meet and comply with the standards. And most of them, you would say that these standards are really biting to the people, but no, these standards are meant to protect, the people. And it's at that stage that we see that all these denials of the food export to other countries has brought really major challenges and issues in the economic spectrum. For example, we see that reports indicate that about approximately 32.8 billion that is being lost from 2023 to date on issues of non-compliance with the food safety requirements of the food that we are exporting. And also, we see that the expenditures in the health sector really go high, because even when you see the food that was denied access to South Sudan and also Kenya and other countries, we do not have evidence that this food has been really destroyed. So it comes back to the market. And besides, if we grow maize in our respective regions, the largest percentage is consumed at the local level. No wonder we see that it comes back to us to see that the food that we grow for ourselves, we consume the same food, which is a bigger challenge to the health concerns. That's why we say that it has caused healthy burden expenditure to about 1.8 million US dollars. So treating foodborne illnesses has been really highlighted. So that's a big question. And as we say that, yes, Uganda is really transforming towards implementing the NDP4. And under the NDP4, we are looking at transforming and also having the ATMs, and agro-industrialization is part of them. But then how can we achieve the NDP4 and also the tenfold growth strategy with all these clear and unmet, challenges that we see that even lead um, to deny of the food, because we cannot really now export, so we are not going to even have that into the realms of the trade perspective. So here we are also seeing that beyond the NDP4, we are aligned to the East African community, whereby a farmer or even any other person intends to grow their maize or for any kind of food for export so that they can boost their economy. But you cannot boost your economy without trading with others. And here we have the East African community, which East African community is opening up doors for our agro products. But then this market is going to fail because we cannot meet the standards, as I've already highlighted on the different denials. We also have, ladies and gentlemen, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, whereby this is anchored within the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, where we as Uganda hosted the third African heads of state sitting in January 2025. And the cause was to say, let's boost our, agri-food systems. Let's transform our agri-food systems. And in the quest to transform the agri-food systems, we cannot meet what is really within the commitments. One is the African Continental Free Trade Area. How can we comply or even meet with the requirements under that intra-trade market without aligning our standards or even aligning the safety concerns within the targets? And it also brings us to back to the commitment. One of the key commitment is the 10% budget allocation. Here we are, members of the fourth estate. Currently, we have actually below 3%, and we have been lagging within the below 3%. No wonder we see continuous, issues of unsafe food on the market. No wonder we see issues of the limited extension workers at the local level. Here we want to speak actually about the local, levels, because if we have everyone here on the call can go back, even those in the fourth estate, from the local media perspective. How many extension workers do we have at those respective local level? And we know that if we have very limited extension workers, it's a concern of budgeting, it's a concern of prioritizing, and also issues of seeing where our money is really going to be injected. And that same concern shows us the detachment of the ongoing regional, actually the ongoing national, regional, as well as the continental commitments, and also at the international level. If we have an increased detachment of these commitments, then we will continuously work in silos, we will continuously work without even looking at the overarching goals. And why I'm talking about the international as well is because we have the sanitary and phytosanitary measures, which we all have to agree to. And these are under the international, the international World Trade Organizations, agreements, and it is an international law that we comply with these international standards, and also the sanitary and phytosanitary guidelines. Why we want to have the sanitary and phytosanitary is to see that the food that is placed on the market, a farmer who grows I'm going back to maize. Who grows maize? Who grows chili? Who grows cucumber? Grows in line with the market. So there is need to link the farmers to the market, so that in that line, that system, there is need to comply with the safety requirements, and that really look at the food and the other related concerns. And lastly, as I may conclude, is that estimates indicate that Africa loses actually USD 4 billion annually due to pesticide mismanagement, and that is a big question. Here, many people are cherishing use of pesticides, and we see adverts running every day on the use of pesticides, but the usage of pesticides is mismanaged. So that is one of the key issues we should really unpack and see that we transit the narrative from the use of pesticides. And also Uganda approximately loses USD 60 million in export earnings each year as a result of pesticide residue mismanagement. That goes back to the same call that we need to adjust the narrative and avoid this continuous push for the pesticides, the intensified pesticide use in agriculture. And maybe my other colleagues from Sefrot, from Caritas, Fian will also elaborate more. And maybe to speak something at heart is the issue of the constitution, which we have the Objective 22, which looks at food and nutrition. There are many commitments that the state has to comply with, but we do not have, anything that really shows that there is commitment, the move towards complying with those commitments. We also have the Food and Drugs Act, which is extremely old. And we know that if we have this Food and Drugs Act of 1959, before colonialism, we have grappled with the need to have the bill that has been pushed back each and every sitting that we have experienced. So that raises the question, members of the Fourth Estate, really, if anything really fails, we cannot really call ourselves that we have failed on pushing the government to have a new law which it has committed to itself, a new law that is effectively implemented to see that we adjust to the ongoing dynamics. Thank you so much. Over to you, the moderator. Oh, okay. Thank you for the hand claps. I think I would take up the opportunity as well to invite the next speaker, Bernard or Mr. Chimera. Kindly take the floor and raise issues of the consumer, and then later we will also have Sefrot also raise issues of human rights to food as we
Bernard will
proceed
come
to
in
Yang.
and lead us in the next segment. Mr.
Perfect.
Bernard Wambale, please do come in. Yeah. Mr. Bernard Wambale will come in and share from the perspective from the Food Safety Coalition and the consumer sector. Bernard, please.
Okay, thank you so much, colleagues, and happy World Food Safety Day to all of you. Thank you, Ms. Agnes, for giving us the statement, and thank you, Jonathan and comrades online, for extensively sharing with us. And of course, I am happy that all of us are so much interested
Wambale,
in
may
the
you
subject.
please improve your volume or the quality of your voice?
Henry, are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, but you're very far away or your voice is low.
Or maybe the headset, so maybe I just need to be closer to the microphone. Hope that is better. Okay, so Ms. Agnes has given us a wide spectrum of concerns that we are raising as civil society organizations when it comes to the aspects of food safety. And very importantly, there are other small elements that we need to think about as consumers at household level. How do we actually contaminate food at household level? That should also be something of interest. If you look at how we organize our refrigerators, you know, you've seen people put meat above bread, you know, food that is not ready to eat and is put above the food that is ready to eat. So at the end of the day, when food starts thawing, you will actually realize that a lot of, you know, water starts dropping from the unready to eat food to the ready to eat food. So already that is a food safety concern at household level. And these are small things that actually the public never thinks about. What about the way people wash their hands at home? You'll actually realize that people are still using the same dish to wash their hands. The father, the mother, the children are all washing their hands in the same dish, and that is a public health concern. Just think about it, if the father had visited a toilet, maybe wherever they were during the course of the day, and if you go to our rural setup, you know, someone probably has no tissue or something. So sometimes we carry waste, human waste on our fingers, on our hands, and when we start washing our hands, there is a way we start sharing this dirt amongst the family members. So already that is something that can lead to food safety concerns. But we never talk about such things, and it's very, very important that we think about such circumstances. And then there are also other aspects that we never reason out. Think about the way the dishes are washed. Sometimes you have dishes and they're being washed with I don't know which kind of water we'll talk about, some sort of dirty water or something. And that is what we are using to wash the dishes. Alternatively, when it comes to after washing the dishes, what is it that we are using to actually dry the utensils? You know, some people use clothing that is already really unbearable for us to use. And that is also very dangerous for us to rely on. I am getting feedback that my voice is a little low, and yet I don't have headsets. Maybe what we can do, Jonathan, if you don't mind, as I maybe try to work on my audio, it could be the problem. Let us maybe have another speaker as I sort this voice thing. I can see feedback in the chat that the voice is low, and yet I don't have any headsets. If that is okay with you.
Sorry. Okay, Bernard, you can check on the sound. I was hearing you maybe because I'm having heavy duty headsets on. You can sort that out as I'm inviting Shafiq from Fieni, Uganda. Shafiq from Fieni, Uganda, if you could only give us at least the experience of what is happening among the fisher folk. It is common when we are talking about food safety to dwell more around crop and a bit into livestock, but we rarely talk about fish, even when I talked about it a bit. Shafiq, can you take the floor as Bernard checks his microphone?
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Agnes. I wanted to pick it up from where Jonathan mentioned about the impact of pesticides and the dangers posed and other agrochemicals that cannot be ignored when we are discussing food safety. Recently, when the president was trying to respond to Andrew Mwenda's concerns, he mentioned of the importance of these large-scale plantations and that they contribute. However, this is not the reality when it comes to communities where these large plantations do exist. For example, in the fisher folk, I would bring in this because some oil palm plantations in Buvuma and Kalangala, where communities have raised concerns about the chemical runoffs from the plantations finding its way into the water bodies. And around places where these plantations are, there has been generally fish scarcity. And we all know who bears the burden when there is scarcity of fish. We are seeing a lot of enforcement measures put up on the lake to add issue of fish scarcity, and it's put on the illegal fishing and the fishing methods to the fisher folk, forgetting the impact or the negative impact that is brought up by the plantations themselves. But also, still as we talk about the law, the law only looks at issues of regeneration, revenue correction, and enforcement. But we do not, for example, in the current Fisheries and Aquaculture Act of 2023, the safety handling of fish is not explicitly talked about in the Act. We continue seeing vehicles moving around with fish put in front of their cars. We continue here people using poison to do fishing. So the challenge before us is to strike a balance between economic growth and the protection of people and environment. Revenue generation alone is okay, it is important, but true development should be measured by the well-being of the communities and the sustainability of our natural resource and the ability of every person to enjoy safe and nutritious, appropriate food. That's what I wanted to add on in regards to the side of the fisher folk and how issues of food safety are to be handled when it comes to the fisheries sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shafiq. I just wish to add on your plate the manner in which silverfish mokene is dried by the lake shores on bare ground, and then animals walk over it. And you know the chickens, the goats, the what. Those of you who have attempted to buy mukene from a common market, you will find that in a tin of 2,000 shillings, half of it is going to be other things other than mukene. What is happening in aquaculture, in the absence and scarcity of fish feed, how fish farmers are feeding fish in those ponds, on everything, including human waste. It is happening. And you know, when we say that our food system is in a food safety crisis, this is what we mean. So we have nowhere to run to from the crop. You wanted to run to run to the piggery. I told you pigs are fed on ARVs. Then you wanted to run to poultry. I told you that they are injected with the antibiotics and growth hormones. You thought you would run to the fish. Now Shafik has told you not even capture fish is absolutely safe. I don't know if Bernard is ready, and if he's not yet ready, I can invite Betty Aguti. We have condemned and talked about the farmers, and you know that you convene the Common Voice Farmers Platform. Please speak to us what the farmers have done and they have not done in the aspect of food safety. Betty Aguti. Oh, I hate dry air.
Hello,
Especially
hello, I'm here now.
Uh-huh. Yes, now you're on. Speak, Betty.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Agnes, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, the Fourth Estate. We know you are very good friends, and you really contribute a lot towards this agenda. I just want to speak to only two things. Number one, Agnes is asking what have the farmers done and what have the farmers not done. I must say that there is a lot that the farmers do because our food begins from the farmers. All the food we eat in Kampala, in Uganda, is from the farm and not from the big multi-million farmers, but the smallholder farmers. And therefore, I must say that the work of the farmers must be of paramount interest to all stakeholders, especially the decision makers. Most of the times we blame farmers for scattering pesticides here and there. But who has gone to these farmers? Yes, I know ignorance of law is no defense, but to be humane, who has gone to these farmers? The ministry and other partners who has gone to these farmers to tell them what they are supposed to do. The extension workers complain of lack of facilitation to reach these farmers, to give them information about food contamination, about these chemicals, the chemicals that have been banned from the world market. But this information is lacking. Number one appeal is we need to go down to the grassroots, to the farmer who feeds this country, and tell them exactly the do's and the don'ts about these chemicals. Because what we know as farmers is we just need chemicals. Deep in my village, even the lowest person who has not attempted even to enter class one day knows about rocket. I want rocket. That one is very good. It can kill all the pests. So we need to go down. Number two, I want to talk about the plastic contamination. The plastic contamination is a very big challenge. And in this one, I speak directly to Omuntu Yawansi, everyday person. As we speak right now, if we went to these markets, if we went to these food vending points, we shall get matoke already boiling. If not already, it has been prepared, but prepared inside a polythene paper. and all of us go and enjoy. If I don't eat matoke, I don't feel very well. Please bring me matoke. Dear citizens, dear people out there, we are eating chemicals and we are eating our way to the grave. We must take care as we eat some of this food. And let's help the Omuntu Yawansi to understand. Sometimes they do this out of ignorance. They do not know it. But let's let them know that plastic in food, especially when it is hot, causes challenges. Give me chips. They put for you hot chips in a Kavera. And you carry it all the way. By the time you reach home, the chips has cooled and we eat our death. And I want us to implore the nations and our country. I want to ask the country, this nation, to enforce the UN Plastic Treaty, which was formulated last year, 2025. And we want to ask our government, please and please, if there is anything that you've done for this country, just for the first time, please ban the single-use plastics. It has become a menace to this country. And then number two, I want to talk about the cold chains in our market. You find our market in the dustbin on the roads, the food is rotting out. And then when you go to buy the food, the vegetables, the fruits actually are not fruits to be eaten. They are not of standard to be eaten. Why? Because there are no cold chain rooms in these markets. These markets, most of them were built in the BOQ. There was a provision for the cold rooms. But when you go to the markets nowadays, especially up in the top rooms, you don't get these cold rooms. What happened? Where did the money to put these cold rooms in place go to? Who ate our cold rooms? We want our cold rooms back to our markets so that our food is protected. If it is not safe, it is not food for God and my country. Over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Betty, who ate our cold rooms. I know Bernard and Henry know when we are shown the would be cold room for the Mbale Central Market. It is used as a store now or a tailoring place, something like that. The architecture was there, the architect work was done, but the enforcement, I told you, we are obese, but malnourished in enforcement, in implementation, and in regulation. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, our time is fast spent. I wish to call Bernard back to conclude his remarks, but also conclude from our end, and we are going to take, if there are any questions from the Fourth Estate, and we call it a day. Bernard?
Thank you, Miss Agnes. Just let me be sure that now I can be heard very well.
I hear you.
Okay, all right. So my name is Bernard Wambale. I am the head of program at Consent, but I'm also the national coordinator of the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda. As I earlier started, there are quite a number of issues that we need to address, especially at the household level. And I had already mentioned some of the common practices that actually compromise the safety and quality of food at household level. And one of the issues relates to how people actually handle food. When it comes to, for instance, people are going to have a meal, how do families, how do communities out there wash their hands? From the public health perspective, we know very well that just a mere hand washing practice can save us from so many foodborne illnesses. But what happens is that people are washing hands, but most families wash their hands within the same bowel. So you wash your hands in the bowel, the husband, the children, and everybody else. That means if someone had contaminated hands, the next user of the water certainly contaminated their hands too. So that kind of practice, it's just a matter of awareness to the population about how hands are supposed to be washed with clean running water and soap. I've always mentioned that every time you wash your hands, even as the elites, the moment you wash your hands, but you do not use soap, you've actually not washed your hands, because usually the moment you pour water on your hands, if there are bacteria or virus or whichever microorganisms, they also love water, so they actually thrive best when your hands are wet. But the fact that maybe you've used soap, then it is the soap that does the action of removing the debris but also killing the microorganisms. So how much of us assumes that they are washing hands, but in actual sense, they are actually making their hands even more vulnerable to microbial contamination. So those are some of the things that we need to think about when we are talking about aspects of hand washing. The other concern is about how we are using cooking oil. Whenever we use cooking oil more than once, then there's a problem, because cooking oil starts releasing unhealthy compounds that we keep on eating. So that is another danger that we face when it comes to the safety concerns of the food that people are actually eating out there. And of course, we have other concerns of preservation. How are people preserving food? Many people are actually using, public health drugs to preserve food. We've seen people using sulfide compounds to actually preserve food. We've seen people using paraffin in schools to preserve legumes, and that is very, very dangerous. So we need to think about how do we approach the schools on how they are preserving food for our children. So sometimes a child is actually taking paraffin from the word go for 3 months of the term, for 9 months in a year, and every day they are eating 2 plates. But who is talking about these things? So there's already trouble when it comes to that kind of preservation of food in the schools, and this is something that the media has to help us speak about it every now and then, so that we can save the population. One time I just did a few months ago, I think 3 months ago, we did a quick move in town, and we found that actually people who are vending food in Kampala, someone comes with a bag of oranges or mangoes, but because KCCA is chasing them left, right, center, someone puts their bag of tomatoes or a bag of Irish potatoes in a public latrine, so they keep on coming to fill the basket. So it's another practice in town, which I know no one talks about these things, but that is it. So how do we work with the authorities, maybe KCCA and other people, to make sure that the food that we are giving to the people is actually absolutely safe and free from risk? We've seen all these practices in different cities, in different towns, but how do we make sure that then we have a deliberate campaign on food safety for everybody to survive? And then there's also another risk of unhealthy animals being slaughtered for people. The question is, every time we are eating meat which has been sick, this is one health approach. Every time we eat contaminated meat, we are all likely to have challenges with zoonotic diseases. But in our setting where it is mandatory by law that all meat is supposed to be inspected by an inspector, and then it is supposed to be stamped. But of course, because of corruption and other things, some of the things are not done, but we see stamps on meat. I visited one of the places, some of the colleagues know, and we found that people start slaughtering animals as early as 4 o'clock in the morning. But then the veterinary officer is not on site by then. So who is checking the meat? And these stamps have been left in the hands of the community members. They are the ones who are stamping. But who is talking about these concerns? And these are all food safety concerns that can actually breed zoonotic diseases to the people in Uganda. And the other issue is about adulteration. We've seen people mixing so many things in milk, so many things in juice. And so you think you're buying milk, but actually you're buying something else. So we've seen tanks of milk, packing somewhere and maybe adding runoff water, etc. And we need to speak about these things, but not only speak about them. If it's possible, we even need to start suing people. I am happy that Sefrot is on the call. We need to start suing people who adulterate people's food. you know, nutritionists are saying, okay, let the children take milk, but the milk is entirely adulterated. So how do we deal with these kind of circumstances? So there's a lot of trouble that we need to deal with when it comes to the food that we are actually giving to the population. If you go to Kampala and other cities, you will find a lot of vegetables in drainage lines in the name of preserving them and keeping them cold, you know, something like that. And these are all things that we need to bring to the public domain so that probably consumers get annoyed and so they can demand for safer and healthy food that we need to continue having access to. There are also other obvious things that I keep mentioning. Just imagine you go to a dairy and you're going to buy milk and you find this guy in the dairy and he gets you a Kavera and he blows in air. The guy maybe has COVID or he has his flu or he has whatever disease, but he's blowing in the Kavera in which he's packing for you food. I mean, as a consumer, why on earth would you take such milk? Because I mean, if someone has even blown their dirty air, their diseased air, why then would you take that kind of food? We need to encourage consumers that every time they see unhealthy food, unsafe food, they must have liberty to actually reject this kind of food, and then they shouldn't be able to take it. And all of us, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be cognizant of what we are actually taking in every now and then. And so the question of utensils again, how do people wipe utensils? You'll find in some of the restaurants or maybe hotels or even in our homes, we are using dirty linen actually to clean or to dry clean plates. So you end up now doing nothing because at the end of the day, you are drying a clean plate but with a dirty linen. So at the end of the day, we find that we are doing a lot of practices to actually compromise the quality and safety of the food. And then lastly, the aspects of allergens. You've had so many children now, they are allergic to so many things, and you wonder why they are allergic to those things. Someone goes to a restaurant or a hotel, or someone goes to a wedding and someone says, well, I don't eat meat. But then you find that they are using the same serving spoon for fish, for meat, for, you know, but someone doesn't take fish, someone doesn't take meat. But the spoon, the serving spoon they're using is actually what is compromising the quality, and someone goes home and they start diuretic. So all of these concerns, they then lead us to trouble. People start getting foodborne illnesses that Miss Agnes talked about earlier. And trust me, we already know the signs and symptoms of some of these diseases. Most of the people who have foodborne illnesses will either have nausea, someone is nauseated, someone has diarrhea, someone starts vomiting, you know, someone starts having abdominal cramps, someone has fevers, and others have muscle cramps, some people have chills, etc. All these are signs that there's been trouble. I have always given an example of my place. When you leave my home district, Kasese, by all means, if you're coming to Kampala, you have to have a stopover in Mubende. People will travel for 6 hours and no one is diureting, no one is vomiting until we reach Mubende. When people reach Mubende, you see even the bus operators, they start giving us, you know, Buvera for vomiting and whatever. Why? Because people probably have taken contaminated food in such spots. So how do we ensure that now we start promoting healthy food but also nutritious food, which is safe at all the time? These are supposed to be the issues. Aware of the signs that I've just mentioned above, coupled with a lot of misdiagnosis that happens in our country, many people are treated for other diseases instead of being treated for foodborne illnesses. And so we end up seeing many people die because they have eaten contaminated food unknowingly, or maybe they have just eaten food that they're allergic to. And that can be very, very problematic. And so we need to make sure that we continue creating awareness to our people so that they understand these dynamics. We need to make sure that we build the capacity of the different people we are dealing with, the capacity of consumers to make informed choices, the capacity of inspectors, the capacity of public health officers at districts, the capacity of the media to be able to sensitize the masses, the capacity of civil society to be able to advocate for these things, and everybody. We need to do capacity building to the highest. And then also we need to do a lot of research. When we do research and present it to the powers, authorities that may be, how is this research being used? We just presented a research showing that almost 90% of the cooking oil in Kampala and the surrounding metropolis area is dangerous to people because it is being overused. And then we thought maybe the powers that be would then go and swing into action to start doing things like inspection and whatever. No one has done that. We came up with a study the other time and we indicated how the chicken on the market is having aflatoxins, how chicken has antibiotic residues. We've written reports showing that vegetables have a lot of pesticide residues, but then we don't see action. So how do we utilize research to actually make sense and guide implementation of things? So it's one thing to do research, and it's another thing to use research to actually execute what is supposed to be executed. And so I would call upon my fellow researchers, let us continue doing research, make sure that the research is available, but also our leaders to make sure that this research is being used. Lastly, we need to do advocacy at every cost. We need to keep on advocating for the safety of the food that we are giving to the population. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stop there and thank you for your attention. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bernard. And colleagues from the Fourth Estate, that is it from us. We only need to conclude by saying everyone is a potential victim if you're not already one. So we are opening up to you. Commanding Center, you will help me if there are hands of people from the Fourth Estate that wish to ask us some questions, and then we give feedback to those questions and we call it a day. Any hands up? It seems there is no hands up. This being a virtual presser, do we also do local languages? Oh, there is a hand, Okello. Okello, can you please take the floor?
Agnes Anderson here. Briefly, for local languages, I would suggest, in case there's anyone who wants a particular language, should send a message so that they address that particular topic he wants to be addressed. Yes, in the local language. Otherwise, if we can't do all the other things in local language for another an hour or two. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Any other hand up? If there is no other hand up, on behalf of my colleagues from the civil society, I thank you once again. I'm not going to act like Bernard, who said Happy Food Safety Day in a food system that is having all these burdens that we are talking about. I just wish you to have, at least today, I wish you had a safe meal. Good afternoon.
Have a blessed Sunday, all of you.
Blessed Sunday too.
Agnes, there's a YouTube link which I can share in the chat so that colleagues can keep using.
Please share it. Please share it.